Moon Knight, Marvel's psychotic mixture of Batman and Punisher. Underused superhero explained in detail. With the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Phase 4 in full swing, fans of comics and superhero films are preoccupied with new trailers dropping every other week and new poster reveals on social media every now and then. Although shows like WandaVision, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, Ms. Marvel, and Hawkeye are already lined up for this year, with the first two already out, the fourth phase has much more up to offer.
He wants to mix it up. Is that possible? You can change? Hi.
One of the most anticipated of the new Disney Plus series, which will probably be the first to release next year, is titled Moon Knight. Jeremy Slater, who has previously worked on the Netflix series The Umbrella Academy, will be the head writer for this show, and it is speculated that it might take place after the events of the movie Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, releasing this September. That being said, let us take a deeper dive into this mysterious Marvel character and why he makes the perfect anti-hero, because of his unpredictability.
Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
The Punisher plus Batman equals Moon Knight? We apologize to fans that hate to see DC and Marvel being put together. However, many claim that Mark Spector, aka Moon Knight's character, is like a cross between Batman and the Punisher. Assuming that everyone is aware of the basic character and origin of Batman, let us focus instead on the Punisher. Having first appeared in the Amazing Spider-Man number 129, he is an anti-hero who uses crime against criminals. Refusing to shy away from the use of deadly weapons, illegal coercion, violence, kidnap, and even murder, the Punisher is a vigilante that built his brand after his innocent wife and son were killed by a bunch of thugs. Moon Knight echoes the Punisher in many ways, using pretty much the same methods as the vigilante, with added martial arts. Just like the Punisher, Moon Knight is driven by the fire of vengeance burning within him, but not for a lost wife or child, rather just because of general emotional baggage.
I am moonlight reflecting off a pool of water, Spider-Man.
And that is where the Batman influence comes in. Spector, like Bruce Wayne, has more money than he can count and has a passion for justice. Well, a passion that develops over time at least. If you thought Tony Stark's and Wakanda's weapons technology was impressive, you should see what Moon Knight can do with the oodles of money at his disposal. Using cutting-edge gadgets and high-tech weapons, Moon Knight makes crime fighting look 10 times cooler. He is dangerously skilled and has a passion for fighting crime, only he fights it by committing crime himself.
And now, foul demon, face the vengeance of the Moon Knight.
Moon Knight's several nervous breakdowns are proof that his mental illness is a danger to all. After Mark Spector was dishonorably discharged from the CIA, he joined a unit named Soldiers of Fortune and went through many life-changing events in a very short span of time. His intentions were good. He believed he could do more with his specialized skill set and intellect than just sit around after the CIA let him go. But unfortunately, not a lot of options were available to him. Hence, he joined the unit, led by Raoul Bushman, a man who went on to become Spector's nemesis. However, when his conscience did not permit him to go through with a mercenary mission in Egypt, he ended up battling Bushman and almost died. It is here that the Egyptian god of moon and vengeance, Khonshu, visited Spector and granted him his life and powers in exchange for Spector's allegiance as the god's avatar on Earth. This is how Mark Spector became Moon Knight, but his worries were far from over.
What was that, Master? Yes, if it is your will.
What did the moon say?
Having suffered his fair share of trauma and struggling with mental illness, Moon Knight's condition slowly deteriorated. When he tried to use his dissociative identity disorder to manifest various personalities, each with a unique trait helpful for crime fighting, the strain was too much for his mind to endure. Quite literally, it broke his brain. And while this can be a great way to explore mental illness in the upcoming Moon Knight series, it does pose certain questions about how dependable his character really is. The readers have often questioned if all or most of what is happening is real, or if it is just a figment of the unreliable narrator's imagination. Moon Knight poses a constant threat to the common people because of his several mental breakdowns that have occurred over the years. Spector is not secured in an institution. He is not getting the help a patient suffering from mental illness requires. In addition, he is armed with some of the deadliest weapons you can imagine at all times, and he is not even any less dangerous without them. Nobody knows for sure when and at who he will lash out. Nevertheless, Moon Knight deserves credit for killing and punishing those who deserve it. His character arc is something that can be explored in a lot of different ways, and here's hoping Marvel and Disney give a well-balanced perspective.
Moon's Knight of Vengeance must carry out your luminous will.
Are you seriously talking to the moon?
Moon Knight's chronic dissociative identity disorder shaped most of his character arc. Having discussed his sanity for a while, now would be a great time to jump into details of Moon Knight's dissociative identity disorder. The first four of his identities, namely Mark Spector, Moon Knight, Stephen Grant, and Jake Lockley, coexisted for the longest time, and before they began to take a toll on him, people believed they were just aliases Spector used to lay low when he needed to. The first identity, or the one that psychologists call a host personality in patients of DID, is Mark Spector. This is considered to be the real personality of the patient, and the others, even if they might dominate over the host personality at times, are created by the patient to use as a shield against trauma. As discussed earlier, Spector was a CIA agent turned mercenary who was almost killed by Raoul Bushman. This gave birth to personality number 2, Moon Knight, who was an avatar of the Egyptian god Khonshu.
And who exactly are you?
Name's Mark Spector.
Oh, great to meet you.
Although as a human, Mark Spector was well trained in hand-to-hand combat and had technology that could give Batman a run for his money, as Moon Knight, those aspects became merely an added advantage. Given that Moon Knight is an avatar of the god of Moon, he derives his power from the celestial body and is the strongest when it is full. Many would argue that other street superheroes of Marvel, such as Daredevil, are stronger as they never needed any supernatural powers to fight the way they did. But in Moon Knight's defense, he was almost as good a fighter, even when he was human. The character's third personality is called Stephen Grant, which he created to separate himself from Mark Spector and his history of bloodshed and violence. Technically, it is this personality that people often compare to Bruce Wayne, as Grant is the millionaire that funds technology to help fight crime. The fourth personality, Jake Lockley, is a cab driver. Being someone who is always on the streets and not paid attention to by most, Lockley used this to his advantage to patrol the streets for criminals. Marvel was quick to realize Moon Knight's potential as a hero rather than a villain, and in a 2011 issue, we see the character make a shift to Los Angeles to right his wrongs and learn the ways of a hero.
Costume and the weapons.
And you didn't really answer.
Because I didn't really know.
While in LA, he was advised by Iron Man, Spider-Man, Captain America, Wolverine, and Echo. The catch was that these superheroes were never actually there helping Moon Knight. He had manifested the personalities of these Avengers to help himself. If you can look beyond how messed up that is, you might actually admire the plan's intelligence. Not to mention, he was quite dedicated to this little adventure of his, and he even used duplicate versions of each of their weapons in battle. The final personality that he exhibits is called Mr. Knight, which he created consciously and not as a result of the illness. But given his condition, it was probably not the best idea for him to stray away from reality in any way. Mr. Knight, like the avatar of Khonshu, wore all white, but also wore a mask with a crescent moon on his forehead. This was stylistically different to Moon Knight's costume choices, which were a bit more eccentric. The NYPD briefly used Mr. Knight's services to solve crime, while Moon Knight continued in his acts of vigilantism in the night. It would be really interesting to see how Moon Knight's Disney Plus series decides to tackle the issue of such serious mental illness. Previously, MCU has given us a glimpse of the PTSD that Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, suffered after the Battle of New York, and also how depression took a toll on the God of Thunder, Thor, in Avengers Endgame. More recently, in Phase 4 itself, we saw Wanda Maximoff, aka Scarlet Witch, struggling with depression, and Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier, actively seeking the help of a therapist. While Moon Knight's various personalities could make for a great storyline in the show, Marvel could make use of this aspect of the character to cast light on the perils of dissociative identity disorder too. Moon Knight's brutal punishment for the vermin of society. It has been well established by now that Moon Knight is not someone who should be allowed to roam the streets, hunting people down and punishing them. In fact, the safest and most rational option would be to get him a doctor and hold him in an institution until he gets better. Certain storylines from the comics illustrate this fact perfectly. In Moon Knight Volume 1, The Bottom, for example, the anti-hero is in an especially dark place psychologically, even by his standards. He chose to take on the bad guys, and it was evident just how sick and tired he had grown of criminals, as he no longer had patience to let justice to take its course. Instead, he took it upon himself to punish the offenders.
Here I thought a tree trying to bite me would be the strangest thing I'd see all night. Say goodnight, Moon.
Moon Knight would use a knife to carve out a crescent shape on the forehead of criminals he came across, and if they happened to be those that had repeatedly committed a crime, Moon Knight would not stop at just one carving. This once again brings to mind Ben Affleck's incarnation of Batman, who branded criminals with a burning hot bat symbol in Batman vs. Superman. Sometimes the criminals MK branded had the audacity to report their treatment by the vigilante to the police, but to their horror, they would only find photographs of more criminals that had up to 3 or even 4 carvings on their foreheads. Sure, it is out of line for the Moon Knight to assume the role of judge and jury himself, and the method of retribution he chose is extreme. In fact, had he not been on the path of redemption and his mental instability led him astray, anyone could have been at risk, not just the criminals. But fact of the matter is, he reserved the worst of his punishments for the very worst people, the pollution of society. When you start to realize that the ones he branded were child abusers, rapists, murderers, and human traffickers, Moon Knight's actions suddenly stop seeming so barbaric. If Disney Plus decides to cover this aspect of the character's story, the criminals they choose can be used to reflect real threats that people of the world face every day. Perhaps Marvel can even help some live out their fantasies for revenge vicariously through Moon Knight, as he carves out punishments.
End this by any means necessary.
Moon Knight's unique fighting style makes him almost unbeatable in battle. After Mark Spector became the avatar of Khonshu on Earth, he did very well to embody the vengeance that this Egyptian god symbolizes. With his fiery retribution, his descent into madness, and his unmatched fighting skills, MK proved deadly in battle. Although as a human, Mark Spector had excellent interrogation and hand-to-hand combat skills, as Moon Knight, he barely had any use of those. His weapon of choice was a crescent-shaped disc with very sharp edges, and he derived his powers from the moon. However, final say regarding how much power MK can utilize, and when and how he uses it, lies with Khonshu, who gave these abilities to the hero. Moon Knight's insanity means he is resistant to psionic and telepathic attacks, as his brain wires are all mixed up. The character's love-hate relationship with Khonshu is clear. One would think that if someone is resurrected by Khonshu and even asked to serve as his avatar, it is only natural that that being would have him at their side at all times, even if only in spirit. But Khonshu seems just as twisted as Moon Knight, as he uses the latter's vulnerable state of mind to manipulate him psychologically, damaging his mental ability further and making him lose his sanity over time. Moon Knight's lack of empathy, which stems from his mental illness, serves as a weapon for him when going up against criminals, allowing him to be merciless, unafraid to die, and practically impossible to beat. That being said, Khonshu is after all the one to thank for Moon Knight's unique style of fighting, as it is MK's belief that Khonshu will continue to resurrect him that makes him absolutely fearless in the face of death. Aside from the regular superhero powers such as durability and increased strength, Moon Knight's signature trait is that he never fights on the defensive. When he is not in attack mode, he merely takes beatings, stabbings, shootings, and whatever else comes at him. This is also the main reason why Moon Knight is possibly the only hero that Taskmaster has lost to. Taskmaster is a supervillain whose main strength includes his ability to easily and quickly mimic his opponent's muscle movements, using this mirroring to create a stronger counterattack. But having gone only 2 rounds fighting against Moon Knight, the Taskmaster was left begging for his life, as he was unable to mimic MK's abilities to withstand attacks and pain.
Thank you for that, but no. My place is to study and protect this area.
Moon Knight's romantic rendezvous with the Avengers. Seeing how much of a lone wolf Moon Knight is, it may come as a surprise that he has ever had a love life. It turns out, he got around. With his busy schedule, it is understandable that MK barely meets anyone who he is not working with, so the only people he has really been with are his fellow Avengers, with the exception of Marlene Alraune. Spectre had rescued Marlene on the mercenary mission in Egypt that sealed his fate as Moon Knight. The two had an on-again, off-again romance that went on for quite some time and was perhaps the only long-term romantic connection he ever had.
Lurk within the pyramid or waiting to rise again. My destiny is tied here to it.
After joining the West Coast Avengers, MK dated Tigra, the human and tiger hybrid superhero. The two were passionate about each other, perhaps a bit too much, which made their relationship toxic. Both MK and Tigra valued their individuality and privacy, but this constantly conflicted with their desire for one another. They finally parted ways and continued with their own missions separately. Khonshu was disapproving of Tigra for some reason, and given this god's close connection to Moon Knight, it caused a rift not only between MK and Tigra, but between him and Khonshu as well.
But be careful out there. This world is unpredictable.
Later, Spectre went on to date Echo, aka Maya Lopez. She, like Moon Knight, was a vigilante with excellent combat skills, often appearing in the Daredevil comics. Echo's powers were similar to that of Taskmaster, and she had some cosmic powers similar to those of Dark Phoenix too. She met Moon Knight while on a mission, and they later decided to go on a date. Their romance lasted a while, and it seemed like they could have been in the endgame. But Maya was killed by supervillain Count Nefaria in a battle right in front of Moon Knight, an event only adding to the already huge trauma of his life. Here's hoping the Disney Plus series seizes the opportunity to introduce some exciting love interests for our hero.
Same costume, same crescent moon dart things? You're Moon Knight!
Moon Knight has tech that would give Batman a run for his money. Since we have spent enough time teasing Moon Knight's Batman-like technology and gear, it is time to take a deeper dive into what these gadgets actually are and what they can do. Starting out with the basic toughened armor, cloak, and mask, MK soon acquired high-tech toys to play and fight with.
This is a Halloween costume.
With obscene amounts of money at his disposal, Mark Spector was able to fund his whole superhero lifestyle all on his own, unlike most Marvel heroes who seem to be getting most of their kit from either Tony Stark or Wakanda. The first weapon in Moon Knight's arsenal is his truncheon. This is a nunchuck-like weapon he uses to beat the living daylights out of people, and when he desires, he can separate it to create 2 shafts, one for each hand. As separate shafts, they can be up to 8 feet long and fire grappling hooks at opponents. This truncheon is made of adamantium, the same stuff as Wolverine's, so it's practically indestructible.
Thanks, Moon Knight.
I am only doing the moons well.
We already know about the crescent-shaped discs MK carries around, the most common weapon the hero is seen with. For someone who is such an integral part of Marvel, we sure have not been able to shut up about the similarities he bears to Batman. But does he even Batmobile, bro? He sure does, and it is a vehicle called the Mooncopter. It looks nothing like an actual chopper, as it has a huge crescent-shaped behind and a slick overall exterior. This aircraft does not just fly, but also has a stealth mode, which makes it invisible, and obviously a wide array of weapons on board. In case you were wondering about his land transport, the hero made sure to get himself a moon-themed limousine, and motorcycle as well. From what we have seen in WandaVision and The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we know that Marvel is not shying away from comic costumes, but what would be even cooler is to see MK's weapons and automobiles on screen. This is made all the more possible with today's CGI potential, so let's hope the Disney Plus series brings us gadgets aplenty to gawk at. Moon Knight's fashion sense has amazing rationality behind it. Finally, an aspect which puts Moon Knight in direct contrast to Batman: stealth. Most vigilante-type superheroes tend to choose costumes with darker colors, favoring stealthy weapons and planning attacks in the dead of night. They do this in order to keep their identity hidden and to jump their enemies when they are least expecting it. Moon Knight is unlike all of the others, intentionally choosing for his enemies to see him coming. It does not matter to him if he is a vigilante of the night, he chooses to wear a striking, all-white costume at all times. This does not have much to do with his connection to the moon, rather his desire to make sure his enemies know exactly who is arriving. This is one of the only positive things that sets him apart from other superheroes, as having DID is not exactly something to celebrate. Moon Knight's reasons for wearing this bright costume make him even more menacing than we thought. It goes to show just how fearless he is and the confidence he has in his own abilities. There have been very minor additions and changes made to his costume over time, such as when he was fighting the Civil War. His costume had yellow accents to it. But no matter what happens, the only thing that remains constant is the presence of the crescent moon on the forehead of his mask. What happened to Moon Knight's lunar powers? The most common issue a lot of superheroes with ambiguous powers have faced over the years is a change of writers. As new writers join the team and try to give a unique take on certain heroes, a lot changes, leaving readers confused about what exactly is characteristically true of a hero. This happened with Moon Knight. The fact that he carves crescents on criminals' foreheads is a classic example of this, although this was a successful addition. Moon Knight's powers are also questionable as a result, with his recent incarnations differing greatly from previous ones. Anyone reading the recent issues of Moon Knight comics would think he is just another street hero like Daredevil, with amazing martial arts skills and a lot of money to fund his gadgets. But in the previous issues, there were times when the hero actually derived his powers from the moon.
What was that, Master? Yes, if it is your will.
When he was briefly possessed by Khonshu after his transformation to Moon Knight, the character possessed superhuman strength, durability, speed, and a healing factor, all of which increased and decreased in intensity based on the phases of the moon. He even developed a super cool ability, night vision, which was especially helpful as he mostly hunts criminals in the night. The major catch with these powers was that whenever there was a full moon, his abilities were at their peak, but with the waning of the moon, his powers decreased as well. The power cycle resembled that of a werewolf, the mortal nemesis of Moon Knight. An immortal who can die over and over again. We already know the story of Moon Knight's origin, brought on by the resurrection of a dying Mark Spector. But did you know that this character has been brought back to life not only once, but several times? That's right, Moon Knight has been revived at least thrice that we know of and is capable of more. MK himself is aware of the fact that no matter how fatal his wounds are and no matter how many times he gets killed in battle, Khonshu will resurrect him time and again so long as MK continues to serve as his avatar on Earth. This knowledge also makes him deadly in a fight, because when the enemies know they are going up against a man who has nothing to lose, not even his life, there is only so much they can do.
Skyrock.
I have learned to never question the moon's judgment, however inexplicable it might seem.
After the very first resurrection, Moon Knight was killed once as he was stabbed in battle, but Khonshu revived him and healed him to full health. The third resurrection happened after MK lost his life in an explosion while trying to save the world from a deadly computer virus. As he quarantined with the virus himself, hoping to contain it, the blast killed the hero. But as always, Khonshu came through. This often makes us wonder why Khonshu takes such sadistic pleasure in knocking MK's mental health, if he likes or respects the man enough to never let him die. That being said, in the more recent comic issues, Moon Knight is seen as a regular mortal hero, so there's no way to tell if he would still be resurrected if he died. It is not hard to guess that a near-death experience would shake up a regular person. Many find it hard to recover from such trauma without any help, so we can only imagine how actually dying and coming back to life more than once would affect Moon Knight's already troubled mental health. Moon Knight's insanity, no matter how dangerous, has played a crucial role in making him a hero. As he continues to manifest various personalities, it takes a toll on his mind, but it is also an important catalyst to his journey from a villain to an anti-hero. Moon Knight is a hero who is not just fighting the evil in the world, but also his own dark demons. Disney and Marvel have picked a character with immense potential, and if they play their cards right, they can explore the complexities of mental illness and the toll it takes on the individual as well as on society. The show is slated to release in the first quarter of 2022, and not much information is available on it, but we do know that actor Oscar Isaac is all set to play the lead role.
And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.
Who are you talking to?
No one.
Weirdo.
Happy holidays, everybody.